Why is Stoicism so popular? An ancient philosophy rebranded as a modern guide to power. But what exactly is it, and why is it trending now? Most people think Stoicism appeared in the Roman era, a period when this philosophy was actually very popular at all levels of society. It was the philosophy of Epictetus, a slave, and Marcus Aurelius, an emperor. But the Stoic ideas aren't just some old-school philosophy talk. They're meant as an everyday guide to be used right here, right now, to help you stay solid, clear-headed, and strong no matter what's going on. In this video, we're breaking down the core of Stoic thinking and showing how a few simple mindset shifts can help you stay calm, resilient, and actually live better even when things get messy. So check this out. In reality, Stoic ideas originated in the 4th century BCE in Athens. It was Zeno of Cithium, a foreigner in that city, who founded a school of thought called Stoicism. But why Stoicism? Well, Zeno was not rich and couldn't afford to rent anything for his lectures, so instead, he taught by the painted Stoa, a famous colonnade in Athens of the time. So the school just took its name from this location. Humble beginnings indeed. But this already shows an important lesson. Great things don't need big budgets. It's about the power of ideas, not the size of the stage they're shared on. But here's the thing. What made Stoicism stand out was how it constantly questioned itself. It wasn't stuck in its ways, it kept evolving, picking up new ideas and getting sharper over time. That flexibility is a big reason it caught on. It could speak to all kinds of people, in all kinds of situations, and it still does. Stoic ideas weren't just for scholars, they were for anyone looking for meaning and inner strength. Philosophers, emperors, soldiers, even slaves found something real in them. But the thing is, that same openness makes it hard to lock down a single fixed list of Stoic principles. The ideas shifted, especially as they moved from Greek to Roman culture. But honestly, that's what makes Stoicism timeless. It can adapt. Zeno, the founder, broke philosophy into 3 parts: logic, physics, and ethics. Picture it like a garden. Logic is the fence that protects it, physics is the rich soil it grows in, and ethics is the fruit it produces. Or think of it like an animal. Logic is the skeleton, physics is the body, and ethics is the soul. Zeno even helped make the word logic a thing in philosophy. He described it as the study of ideas, judgments, reasoning, and how we make sense of stuff. This foundation in logic gave the Stoics a solid way to connect everything, from how the universe works to how we should live. And it's surprisingly practical. Logic helps you cut through the noise and think straight. Physics helps you understand the bigger picture, how the world actually works. And ethics, that's the real heart of it. It's about how to live with purpose, integrity, and peace of mind. Put together, they're less a philosophy class and more a life 101 manual for staying strong, clear-headed, and free, no matter what hits you. Now, get this. The Stoics had a pretty wild take on physics, way ahead of their time. They believed everything that exists is physical. No invisible realms or separate souls floating around. If something's real, it's got a body. It takes up space, it can affect stuff and be affected. They broke it down into 2 forces at play, the passive and the active. The passive is just raw matter. The active, that's the creative force, call it God, call it nature, is the thing constantly shaping, moving, and animating everything. In other words, the passive principle is just stuff waiting to be shaped, and the active principle, what they call divine reason, was the force that gave it form. But here's the twist. Both were physical. Even emotions, they said, had a material basis. Chrysippus, one of the early Stoics, broke emotions down into 4 main types: fear, desire, sorrow, and pleasure. According to him, fear and sorrow come from thinking something bad is truly harmful, like death. On the flip side, pleasure and desire show up when we mistake something for being good, like chasing status or indulgence. To the Stoics, emotions weren't just feelings, they were bad judgments, mental glitches where we give things meaning they don't really have. And when these emotions start running the show, they turn into vices. That's why Stoics aimed for apatheia, not coldness, but freedom from being ruled by passion. It's all about keeping your inner peace intact. They believed that when you're calm, really calm, You can face life with clarity and focus. No emotional storms, no overreactions, just steady presence. That kind of mindset isn't just helpful, it's grounding. It reminds us we're not floating outside the world looking in, we're part of it. At the core of Stoicism is a radical shift. It tells us to stop blaming the outside world for our inner chaos. The real problem isn't what happens, it's how we see what happens. That shift alone is massive. Think about it. A breakup, a lost job, a bad day, those things mean nothing unless we hand them the power to be something. And when you really get that, that's freedom, because it puts control back in your hands. Now, ethics, that's the heart of Stoicism. And unlike other parts of the philosophy, it hasn't changed much. At its core, Stoic ethics says the goal of life is eudaimonia. That's just a fancy word for lasting happiness. Not the hype kind, the real kind, the kind that comes from living in sync with your nature, your inner logic, your logos. Basically, be who you're built to be. And that means learning to rise above the four big emotional traps: fear, desire, grief, and pleasure. You might ask how? Well, through the four Stoic virtues: wisdom, temperance, self-control, and courage. But these aren't just lofty ideals, they're practical tools. They help you stay grounded when things go sideways. The Stoics also believed in doing what's natural, what fits our human role. That means looking after yourself, your family, your community, because it's built into who we are. And honestly, that hits home, especially today when so many feel out of sync with each other, with nature, even with themselves. Stoicism asks us to reconnect with ourselves, with each other, and with what actually matters. It's not just about toughing it out alone, it's about finding a rhythm between self-care and showing up for others. You need both to live well. And that same mindset shaped how the Stoics viewed death. Take Zeno, for example, the founder of the whole thing. He ended his life by holding his breath. Not out of despair, but as a final act of reason. To a Stoic, death isn't a tragedy if it serves a clear, rational purpose. That might sound extreme, but the message underneath is powerful. Don't fear death. Understand it, accept it. In a world that avoids even talking about mortality, the Stoics tell us face it directly. Not with dread, but with grace. Because when you stop pretending life lasts forever, you start living it for real. Now, when you fast forward to Rome, three names stand out: Seneca, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius. Each one carried the Stoic torch in a different way. Seneca was a sharp-minded statesman. He was also Nero's advisor, which, let's just say, was a complicated job. He was surrounded by power, privilege, and wealth. Yet his writing cuts in the opposite direction, toward simplicity, toward inner peace. In his letters to Lucilius, he reflects deeply on how to live a good life. A poor man isn't the one who has little, he wrote, but the one who craves more. For Seneca, real wealth was the freedom to need less. Of course, critics were quick to point out the irony. He said all this while living in luxury. It's the classic Stoic dilemma: walk the talk or just talk. Even he admitted the path of instruction is long, but the path of example is short. Then came Epictetus. His life was the example. Born into slavery, physically disabled from abuse, he had every reason to be bitter. But Epictetus didn't chase power or revenge. He mastered himself. He believed real freedom isn't about your status, it's about your state of mind. You can't control what happens, only how you respond. That's the core of his teaching. To him, every human being, slave or emperor, carried the same divine spark. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. For Epictetus, life wasn't about status, it was about showing up fully for whatever role you've been given. Slave or emperor, rich or poor, it made no difference. What mattered was how you carried yourself, with clarity, with control, with grace under pressure. His story proves that dignity isn't granted by the world, it's something you build from the inside. Then, of course, there's Marcus Aurelius, philosopher king, ruler of the known world. And yet, his meditations read like the diary of a man trying to stay grounded. A reminder to himself, not to the empire: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Even surrounded by war, betrayal, and the weight of ruling, Marcus kept coming back to one truth: we suffer most when we try to control the uncontrollable. So here it is. That's what makes Stoicism timeless. It hands you the tools to stay centered in chaos. It's not about being cold or indifferent, it's about sharpening your awareness of what's in your hands and what isn't. The happiness of your life, Marcus wrote, depends on the quality of your thoughts. So here's the real question. Can you apply this? Try it for a day, a week, see what happens. Because this isn't content, it's a tool. And tools help you only when you use them. And if this feels like the start of something, it is. Keep going. Follow the thread. The path to freedom is here.